Thank you for coming today for our talk about digital specimens in Lexend. And hi, I'm Irin. I am a visual/UX designer on the Google Fonts team. I'm originally from South Korea, and I grew up in Seoul and spent most of my time there, and moved to New York 9 years ago, so I've experienced both Eastern and Western cultures so far. And just like what I said, everyone would have different introduction, different name, different background, history, different look, and cultural experiences. And just like us, our babies that live on Google Fonts also have different introductions. Different names, different backgrounds, histories, different looks and cultures. They are 1,000 font families, babies, in the Google Fonts library. We wanted to make fonts fast, easy, and free, meaning your website will load fonts as fast as possible with Google's engineering infrastructure. Also, all these fonts are accessible to anyone for any project, and you can easily share and start projects as you want with your friends or colleagues. That's because the fonts are free, Libra, and open source. Do you know this funny logo? This is the Octocat, the mascot of the collaboration website GitHub, recently acquired by Microsoft. GitHub is today the most popular place for developing Libra projects, and many Libra font projects are developed by type designers or founders on GitHub. Every project on GitHub can have a web page as a part of that project. And as I said before, each family has a story to tell about its history and cultural meaning. But catalogs, like fonts.google.com, provide a single universal view for each family, like this. So Google Fonts is now commissioning digital specimens for some projects. We've worked with various designers and developers who also have different backgrounds. Each specimen is designed and built as a website that is also free, Libra, and open source on GitHub. So everyone can contribute to it. These specimens are not only about one typeface's story, but are also about groups of fonts based on bigger cultural categories. As an example, I'll show you the Japanese and Korean specimens. There is very little support for Chinese, Japanese, and Korean fonts on the web because these scripts have very large glyph sets. With 10,000s of letters, the fonts are hard to draw and hard to serve as web fonts. And we like to do our part to make that easier. So we introduced 9 Japanese fonts with a digital specimen when the Google Design Span event was held in Japan in 2016. We wanted to invite designers and developers to experiment with the Japanese web fonts that are available on Google Fonts. When we begin these projects, we like to consider all the ways that users can explore fonts by creating tools to discover the various styles in family. So we also want to provide more contextual information on how the fonts can be used and the fonts look like in different contexts. Also, we want to help people to use these fonts on their own websites. So as you can see here, on the right side of the screen, the HTML and CSS code is presented for each Japanese typefaces as it scrolls into view. The second side is the Korean specimen. As I already said briefly before, CJK typeface design and font development has had many interesting challenges. It takes a lot of time to design thousands and thousands of characters, and there are technical challenges to solve so that large font files load quickly on web pages. As a first step in the right direction, we wanted to show the Korean designers and developers that we are working to solve all these issues by onboarding some Korean fonts and showing them off with a specimen commissioned from some Korean designers. It is at googlefonts.github.io/Korean. The first part of the site has tools that allows you to experiment with seeing these fonts in a different way. The site shows how Korean fonts can be flexibly used on the web with lighter file sizes that are provided by Google Fonts subsetting technology. This subset slicing strategy means web pages load much faster with CJK fonts. Most Korean fonts have both Korean and Latin support. At the end of the specimen page, you can see the fonts used in headlines and in body copy in both Korean and Latin, in English. There is more information about the Korean script, Hangul, and the subsetting technology, so please check that out. So you just saw two digital specimens that grouped fonts based on certain topics and concepts. I now want to announce a new specimen, which does a deep dive into just one family. The new digital specimen is Lexend, and I'll hand this over to Thomas, and he'll talk about the Lexend project.
I'm going to walk you guys through one of the specimen pages. And the purpose of this specimen page is two, or actually three. One is an empirical demonstration of typography's influence on reading, a demonstration of the application of variable font technology, and a preview of the next phase of the Lexend project with an investigation into the Arabic script. So, as the big type is saying, this is a variable font that has been empirically demonstrated to significantly improve reading proficiency. And this is a question of reading. I can't scroll down. Okay, I'll do it this way. The quote, Garrett Norgie, I think is how I pronounce it, he comments that the word is necessary for reading. The word is both black and white rhythmic units. If the rhythm is weak, poorly formed words are produced. If there is no rhythm, there is no word. Norgie claims that educators ignore this proposition with dire consequences in a very hyperbolic manner. But is this concern warranted? Well, a report from the US Department of Education would appear to say so, since the percentage of students who are reading proficient is 36%, which would imply that 64% of the population of students are reading deficient, which is very surprising for a country like the United States. It was for me when I was introduced to this statistic. So the natural question we're going to have to ask next is, what is reading proficiency? So reading proficiency can be understood as three parts that work together. The first part is decoding, the second part is fluency, and the third part is comprehension. Decoding is the capacity to grasp sound symbol relationships. Now then, A is an ah, or a B is a b, something like that. Fluency is the capacity to read in an organic and effortless manner. You shouldn't be straining or having an hard time reading the text. And comprehension is the capacity to understand the content conveyed. These parts are path dependent, meaning you have to go from decoding to fluency to comprehension in a one-directional path. If you're blocked along the way, you're not moving forward on it. So what they mean by a lack of proficiency, they're meaning there's something stopping you at one of these phases. Some people at decoding, some people at fluency, some people at comprehension. So the privation of fluency is specifically defined. We can see an indication of it when the reading is done in a labored, disconnected manner with a focus on decoding at the word level. And this general lack of fluency hinders comprehension. It kind of stops you from moving forward. This is an empirical demonstration of, so we're going to need to ask how we're going to measure this. This is not just words for the sake of saying words. We're going to need to measure this and quantify it in some way. It's measured in words correct per minute, and I'll give a demonstration over here. So let's say we have a student that reads for 409 words in 1 minute and 24 seconds. She made actually there was an error in this, 107 mistakes. To determine the words correct per minute, we're going to go through this process steps. You count the words stated, you count the errors, the mistakes, you find the difference, you convert the time read into seconds purely, so 84 seconds. You divide the 84 seconds by 60 seconds to get an interval of 1.4, and then you divide the 306 by 104. This gives you the correct words per minute. To give you a demonstration of what this experience looks like, we have a simulator. Let's say your reading speed is about 300 words per minute. This gives you a demonstration of the kind of pacing of reading you're going to see there. The red slashes are showing errors. So this is a simulation of a reader going through the experience of reading, and these are errors of some kind being measured by an educator. And down below, you can see the calculations being generated. It was read in 14 seconds. There were 72 words stated, fit for 15 errors. So this looks like a projection of 241 words correct per minute. So let's keep scrolling down. So to summarize what I've said so far, Norgay states that there is a reading crisis that appears to be true when measured in words correct per minute within student populations. But is Norgay's claim that it's broken rhythmic units within the black and the white that is resulting in this reading deficiency? Is this a valid claim or inference from Norgay? And independent of Norgay, an educational therapist, Dr. Bonnie Shaver-Troup, conjectured that typographic factors do in fact impact fluency. I think of relevance is the point is that she comes from a completely different background, no training in art or design or typography. She was just working with students in an educational capacity. Rather than a one-size-fits-all typography, Dr. Shaver-Troup adjusted typographic factors to the individual reader. Those three factors are a sans serif design with low contrast and simplified forms, an amplification in the spacing inside letter forms, and an amplification in the spacing between letter forms. We have a demonstration on the right side, or my right side, the right side, of what happens here. What you should be noticing is that there's an amplification of the spacing inside the letter forms and between the letter forms, and they've been labeled by a degree of increasing intensity. So regular, deca, mega, and giga within this sample. So obviously, again, to be empirical tested, we need to verify if this is effective or not. The Lexend series was tested against Times New Roman as a control on a sample of 20 students. The text was set at 16 point for all students in all settings. The text was 2 grade levels above the current grade level of the students to ensure that the typographic factors were being tested. The students were tested in fluency, which is measured in the words correct per minute, which we just saw a demonstration of what that is. So what were the results? As I keep scrolling down. So there's some really fascinating points. So the first one is 2 students did do best with Times New Roman. That is student number 9. If I could scroll over. As you can see here, there's a demonstration kind of showing again what the student experienced on the left, and here's the bar chart to show the results. So this student went from 159 in Times New Roman to 155. So there was a decrease of 2.5%. There also was a reduction in student number 6 from 160 words per minute to 154 words per minute. So there are some people in the sample that did do best with Times New Roman. However, the vast majority of 17 students did best with something in the Lexend series. Specific of interest was student 18, who went from 36 words to 53 words, which is an improvement of 47.2%, and student number 13, who went from 90 words to 125 words per minute, which is an improvement of 38.9%. So these were the extremas on the loss and the benefit maximums. Whoops. Scroll down. So this gives you kind of a summarization of what the chart is telling you. One student was not measured. There was an error in the measurement of the fluency, so we don't count that person. But so again, of 19 that were measured, 17 did best with something in the Lexend series over Times New Roman. And what's really fascinating is one is the average. So the average student in Times New Roman had 110 words per minute, correct? And the average with Lexend series was 128. So there was an improvement on average of 19.8. So not only was there very vast improvements in the extremes, there was also, on average, the median was a pretty robust improvement. And of really significant interest is the fact that of the Lexend series, there was not just one font that was the best choice. It wasn't like all the students did best with this one setting. There was a diversity of results. 2 students did best, well, I said that Times New Roman, but 2 students did best with regular, 2 students with deca, 9 students with mega, 5 students with giga. So there's a distribution which tends to aim more towards the extreme interventions, but there were some students who did best with Lexend regular, which is a pretty tightly spaced sans serif design, which was a very surprising result from my perspective. So as I said, there's a diversity of readers, and their experiences require a diversity of typography to improve optimal fit. And as eyeglasses aid sight with increasing intensity, Lexend aids reading with increasing intensity. Eyeglasses have more than just a few static options. Not like you get one pair of glasses you get to give everybody. Like, here you go, you have bad vision, you get one pair of glasses. Good luck with that. We have a range of possibilities that are available to people for their prescription eyeglasses. And thanks to variable font technology, this is possible with Lexend. So here's a demonstration. So as you can see here, what's happening is the font is being moved as a variable font, so there's a continuous movement across the design space. The text is being changed to show the simulation, and this is all happening with just one Lexend, with a specific Lexend tag on the variable. So just one line of code on the CSS allows this manipulation to occur. Link to the slider, of course. So to return to Norji, Dr. Shaver-Troup's study does indeed verify the claim that rhythmic units of black and white do have causal relations to reading. And in addition, this study demonstrates the need for a diversity of personalized typography to find optimal fit. And Lexend in particular, and variable fonts in general, but Lexend, as demonstrated, allows for this at low cost, at one line of code, minimal harm with the lowest loss of 3.8, which the student can easily just switch back to Times New Roman for no harm to them, and maximum benefit both on the extreme of a max gain of 47.8% in reading fluency and an average gain of 19.8. So at relatively low cost and very robust gains, it seems a very reasonable intervention for educators and students. Oops, so if I can go down. So what follows next is a conjecture. Everything up to this point has been empirically demonstrated with very robust rigor, but up to this point is a little more conjective in nature, so please take that at heart and notice when we're going further in this discussion. While I was working on the Lexend series as the principal type designer on it, I was researching other languages and other scripts for the reading proficiency, and I noticed Dr. Nadine Shaheen's dissertation on reading proficiency for Arabic. And after speaking with her, and noticing very strong correlations in her results and conclusions as well as what the Lexend series was doing, I proposed to apply the Shaver-Troup formulation to the Arabic script. And while, as I said, this does not have the same degree of rigor of argument as I just had for the Latin, I do have an analogical reasoning for making this proposal. The expansion of letter forms already exists in Arabic. The lengthening of text for justification is named kashida, which aids in fluency. So working with Dr. Shaheen and support from Google, the Lexend team is planning to investigate if the Shaver-Troup formulations added to Arabic, or applied to Arabic, will have the same beneficial fluency properties as it does in Latin. If our hypothesis is true, there are consequences. There are these following consequences. Oh, that's very unfortunate. It was not doing that before, that cut off. But it gives you the idea. This was the proposal. Nadine was independently verified his idea that of increasing intensity of the spacing between the characters in Arabic. Let's see, maybe I escape or get out of full screen mode. Of course, that's what solves the problem. Anyways, just notice again, so this is again showing the property of variable fonts where there's a continuous movement between the instances. And again, this is an animation to show this is, the Lexend code is the same one. The same variable font tag is being applied and changing in number. So, what are the consequences, as I said before? The consequences are the following. One, there could be a richer understanding of human perception that is cross-cultural in scope. Two, there's a demonstration of evidence-based design practices that actually can stand up to robust argumentation, not just within the design community, but within business or other stakeholders we have to interact with in design. And three, it could be a contribution to the expansion of reading proficiency around the world. And the significance of this last point cannot be understated because to close with Norji, what is civilization if not a community bounded together by reading? Thank you.